Hello there, NetSuite friends, and welcome to the 2022 Oasis NetSuite user group. I'm Scott Spradling, and I'm here to bring you another edition of Tips and Tricks. And today we're going to be covering saved searches. So let's dive right in. Let's say that I am a CFO or a controller at my organization, and I want to be able to generate a report that runs monthly, maybe weekly, really, whenever you want, that will basically capture all of my customer invoices that are past due, let's say 60 days, right? And I want to get my sales team involved with maybe the collection effort, right? So I want to generate a report in NetSuite that is automatically sent out to maybe my sales reps so they can assist with the collection process. And I want to be able to do that without having to use a workflow or a script, something that a more common end user would be able to do. Well, that's very easy to do with a saved search. So let's take a look at that and see how we might set that up. So we're going to go to reports. We're going to go down to save searches, all saved searches, and new. All right. And because we're dealing with customer invoices, the save search type is going to be a transaction. So we're going to scroll all the way down here till we get to the transaction hyperlink. And we're going to click. So here's our transaction hyperlink. We're dealing with customer invoices. So it is going to be a transaction save search. All right. And so all I'm going to do, I'm going to give it a name. And we're just going to call it past due invoices, let's say by sales rep. And then it's always a best practice to give any custom record, custom save search a name. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to call it past due invoices by rep. All right, we're going to make this save search public so that other users can subscribe to it, and I'll show you that here in a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to establish a criteria, right? So we know we're dealing with the transaction search, okay? So first criteria I always will implement on any kind of transaction save search is whether I'm dealing with the main line or not, right? So if you just filter mainline, essentially what you're saying here is if I say mainline yes, I'm referring to the header section of the transaction. So in this case, it would be the header information of the customer invoice. I'm not really worried about the line detail, okay? So if I say no, I'm essentially saying false, and I'm wanting to refer to the line level of the customer invoice, but that's not really what I care about in this in this example. If I leave it at either, it will include the header level and the line level in my results of the saved search. But again, as I stated, all I care about in this point is just the header detail. So I want to know what the customer's name is, maybe the past due date, and then the total amount of the invoice, okay? And all that can be found in the header level of the invoice. So I'm going to say yes here to mainline. So I'm just going to hit yes and then hit set. All right, so the next thing I want to see here is days overdue. Okay, so that is a filter that we can use in this save search. So I'm going to click days overdue. And then I want to filter it greater than or equal to 60 days. So I'm going to select my overdue filter here, greater than or equal to, and I'm going to enter a value of 60 days. And we're going to hit set, okay? And then I'm going to set the status. So this is going to refer to the status of the customer invoice. We are going to say that the status of the customer invoice is open. Okay, so I only care about invoices that are open. So I'm going to scroll down until I find invoice open. All right. And that's all we need at this point for our criteria. All right, so this is our filter. So we're saying we only want the header section of the customer invoice. We're worried about customer invoices that are overdue by 60 days, and the status of those invoices are open. All right. So the next thing we're going to look at here is the results. Okay, so what do I want to show in the list of my results for this particular report? Okay, so it's going to default to a bunch of fields. You know, NetSuite just does this to be helpful, you know, because it's going to pull a lot of the most commonly used fields that you would see in a transaction search. However, I'm going to get rid of all of these, and I don't have to go line by line to remove them. All I really have to do here is click the remove all button. And then I'm going to add the fields that I want to add. Okay, so I'm going to start with the due date, right? The due date and receive by date. Okay, so that's the first field I want to add. Then I'm going to add the type. Okay, so this is going to be the transaction type is what that is referring to. And then the name, this is going to be the name of the customer. And then the document number. And you'll notice here, all I'm doing is just typing in the name of the field and it's popping right up. Now you can click the drop down, kind of search through it here. I don't like to do that. I like to just kind of type in the name of the field if I know what I'm looking for. So in this case, I want the amount remaining, okay? So I just want the remaining amount that is due from that customer. And then I also want the sales rep who is assigned to that customer. All right, and finally, I want the days overdue. I just want to see the total days overdue. Now, I also want to sort this report by the due date, right? So I can come up here to the sort by field and enter the due date, received by date, okay? And then I also want to show the report's totals. So see this little checkbox here? If I click it, when I run this report, it's going to show me the total in the results of that report at the bottom of the report. And we'll take a look at that here in a second. Okay, and that's really it for the results. Now, we talked about setting this report up to be sent out maybe at a given time. I want to schedule this report, create it one time, and then set it up to be sent out on a monthly basis. Well, we certainly can do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot all the way over here to this email subtab that you see right here. Okay, so a lot of users, you know, don't really take advantage of this and save searches enough. And it's really, really easy to utilize to take save searches reports and then schedule them to be emailed out to team members. Okay, so I'm under this the email subtab here. I'm still in my save search transaction search, and then you'll notice I have several subtabs here. But the first thing I want to do, I know that I want to set this report up to be scheduled. So I'm going to click this checkbox, and I want it to be sent out regardless each month at maybe a specific time. And I also want to have it sent out even if there's no results. So, and I don't mind it being sent out in a summarized version. So I'm going to keep all of these fields checked here. Okay. So you'll notice here under specific recipients, we can specify specific people or users in our system that we want to get this to get or to receive this report. So I'm in a demo account right now, and my name is Catherine Glass. So I'm going to specify recipient myself because I'm the system admin. Okay, so I'm going to type in Catherine. Okay, because I always want to get this report. Okay, so I'm going to just specify this specific user. And you'll notice there's an allow users to subscribe button here. I'm going to check this as well because I want other team members to be able to subscribe to this report, given that they had access in their role. I'm going to check this box in case other users want to take advantage of this report. Okay, so I'm going to check this to allow other users to subscribe, and I'll show you how that works in a second as well. All right. And so the next thing I'm going to do is you'll notice this recipients from results. So the way this works is because I included in the results here, I'm going to pivot back to the results section. You'll notice I included the sales rep as one of the fields to return in this report. Okay. So what I can do here under the email subtab is I can generate and schedule this report to go out to the recipients listed in this report. And that would be the sales rep in this case. So under recipients from results, I can type in sales rep. Okay. I want the sales rep to get notified whenever, once a month, a list of their customers that have invoices that are greater than 60 days. Okay. So I'm going to just click sales rep and then click add. All right. And then you'll notice that there's also a customized message. So we can make a nice custom message to get sent out to the team. So I'm going to give it a subject. I'm just going to call it customers with 60 days past due invoices. All right. And then I'm going to enter a message here. Okay. And so this would just be the message that they get when the report gets sent out. All right. Now I'm going to switch the source. I don't want to be in the HTML version. So I just click source and now it's like I'm typing a word or an email or anything like that. So I'm just going to give it a quick little brief message. Greetings, please see list customers with 60 days past due invoices. Follow up with your respective customers for a status update. Thanks. Nice and brief. Okay. So the next thing here is we can send the results within the body of the email. Okay. So we can send these results in the HTML. We can also send the results as an attached CSV file. We can send it as an attached Excel file, even a PDF, and we can include a link to the record. Okay. I'm going to send it within the body of the email. That way, when the user gets it, they'll just see the list of data right there in the body of the email. So it'll kind of be listed right below this section here. All right. So we've established our email, what that's going to look like when it goes out. We've got a subject, we've got a brief message, and we want the results of the report to be displayed in the body of the email. All right. So then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to establish the schedule. When do we want this to go out? All right. So I'm going to click here on schedule, and I don't want a single event. If I wanted it to go out daily, I could do that. I could even establish a weekly event, but that may be overkill. I just want to send this out once a month, and maybe I want to send it out at the, towards the end of the month. So I'm going to make a monthly event. So I'm going to click monthly event here, and I want to send this out on the 28th day of every 1 month. Okay. And I want this to start this month. Okay. And I can establish the time that I want it to go out. So I'm going to set this to go out at 8 a.m. and I'm not going to specify an end date. I want this to continue to run each month. I want the sales reps to know their customers with invoices beyond 60 days. So maybe the next time that they talk to that customer, if they know they have an outstanding invoice that's beyond 60 days, they can discuss it with that customer. Okay. So that's all there is to it. Okay. So I can set this up. We've got our schedule, we've got our message, we've got our recipients from our results. I'm the admin. I always want to be CC'd or be included when these emails go out because I want to be able to monitor this as well. That's all there is to it. So now I'm going to hit save and run just to take a quick look at the results. All right. And again, I am in a demo environment. Here are my results. So I've got 63, I've got 63 invoices out there that are way past 60 days past due. All right. So at the 28th of each month, Will Clark is going to get a notification of all of his customers and their invoices that are beyond 60 days past due. Now, let's say I want to go ahead and just run this report now and have it sent out immediately. Okay. Well, you can do that as well. So if I go back over here to edit the search, you'll notice here in this drop down, I can click save an email, and that's going to send this report out immediately. Okay. And here in a second, my inbox, I'll get several emails with all these past due invoices. Okay. And I'm going to let that run for a second. And once my inbox gets some of these invoices, I'm going to take a look at them. Okay, so I just received an email, and this is what the user would get. Okay, so I'm Catherine Glass. I'm going to get all of them, but this is what Mary would receive. This is a list of all her invoices, the name of her customer, the document number, the amount remaining that is due, that is beyond 60 days. She is assigned to all of these customers, and then here's the days overdue. Okay, so Mary would have immediately gotten this because I just ran the report right now. However, going forward, she's also going to get this report on the 28th of each month. All right. So it's really easy. All right. You can use saved searches for emails, for reminders, and they're very easy to set up. And you don't have to be an expert at workflow. You don't have to be an expert at scripting. This is something that any user, as long as they have the permission, ideally it's an admin of some kind, anyone can set this up. And it's a really great tool that NetSuite offers for saved searches to be scheduled and sent out. All right. So the next thing we're going to look at is, what if I want to create a saved search and I want to list the results of that saved search, maybe as a sub list on another record type. Okay, so let's, again, in the same scenario, I'm a CFO or I'm a controller, and I want to, let's say, create another transaction search where I'm tracking the yearly spend by vendor. Right. I want to see, maybe just in one saved search, a rows and columns report, just like a saved search provides you, of the yearly spend that I have with each vendor. Okay. And I want it maybe in a grouped format so I can export that into Excel. But maybe I also want to take it a step further, and I want to use that report and add that report as a sub tab on the vendor record. Okay, so that when my folks in my AP department, can just quickly have a place to go look at a vendor record and then hover down to a sub tab where they can find, how much did we spend on this vendor in 2021, Well, that's also, you can use saved searches to do that as well. Okay, so let's take a look and see what that looks like. So I'm just going to go back out to my home page here. So I'm going to obviously click my home icon. Oh, and I forgot to mention, pivoting back to the subscribed report that I just did, or the scheduled email report, I mentioned other users can subscribe to that report, and that's really easy for them to do as well. So all they have to do is hover over their home icon and click the set preferences link there. Okay. And then under their alerts sub tab, all they have to do is specify the record type that they're looking for, that saved search relates to. It's a transaction, as we noted at the beginning of this conversation. And then they select their saved search. In this case, I want the past due invoices by sales rep. And they can even take it a step further and say that I want to send this on updates. I want to show recent changes. and they can specify the time of the day that they want the alert. Okay, so this is just an easy way for other users to subscribe to this report. They do have to have access, okay? But it's a really easy way for other users to subscribe to it. It may not be sales reps, they may be a sales admin. They may not be the specific sales rep assigned to that customer, but they want to be involved and they want to get this report as well, or get these alerts as well. Well, they can do that under their own set preferences. All they have to do is select the record type transaction and then grab the search. The search will only display here if you specified on the save search that it's set up to be allowed for other users to subscribe to it. So that's why that field, that checkbox field, is very important. And that's all there is to it. All right, so now let's go make our new save search. We want to see what our yearly spend was in 2021 for all of our vendors. All right, so all we're going to do, we're going to go back to reports. We're going to go to save searches, all save searches, new. Okay, and again, this is also going to be a transaction search. Even though we're dealing with vendors here, we're still concerned about the bills, right? So that's the specific transaction that we're going to sum, okay? So we're still dealing with transactions, not vendors, okay? So I just want to be very clear on that. So we're going to get down to transaction, and I'm going to select transaction. And again, I'm going to give it a name. Vendor yearly spend report. And again, best practice, make sure you give your reports, fields, anything custom, a nice, clear internal ID. All right, I'm also going to make this report public, okay? So making it public will allow other users to view this report. Again, they have to have access to the specific transaction type, okay? So our criteria here, again, main line is going to be true. So I'm going to select yes here. All right, and the type of transaction we are dealing with is going to be bill. Okay, so we're talking about vendor bills here. And date is going to be within the last year. All right, so if I click this box here, I've got this little year button here. If I click that year button, then the available selectors pop up and they're all related to year. So I want to see last year. All right, so again, I can see from 1/1/2021 to 12/31/2021. So I'm going to click set. All right, and then the status, I'm going to need the status of the bill. I only want to see where bills that are paid in full, So I don't care about bills that are open. Maybe I just want to see bills that have been paid in full. What have we actually paid out? All right, and then I want to see the amount paid. So I'm going to select the amount paid field, and I want to, I only care about if it is not 0. All right, so is not equal to 0. Click set. All right, now we're going to pivot to the reports subtab. And again, I'm going to remove all. First thing I'm going to do, I want to sort by amount paid. All right, so I want to see the largest, the largest on top, right? And then I want to also show totals at the bottom of the report. And now I'm going to enter the fields that I want to see in this report. So I'm going to start with date. So I'm just typing in date and then going to the next field. I want to see the document number. And I also want to see the name of the vendor. I need to do that. And then I want to see some specific vendor information. Okay, so I need to see the vendor's company name, the vendor billing address, and the vendor email. Okay, so the fields that you see here are the fields that are available for transactions. But the nice thing about saved searches is that you can use them to join to other records and pull fields from other records. So in this case, I need to pull fields from the vendor record. So I'm going to scroll all the way down, almost to the bottom of this list of fields. And you'll start to notice here that you're going to see fields that end in ... What that is telling you is that that is a new data table that you can link this saved search to. Okay, so in this case, I need to pull data from the vendor. So I'm going to scroll all the way down here to the vendor fields ... because I want to pull some fields from the vendor record. Okay, so it's a join. That's all it is. It's just pulling fields from another data table. All right, so I'm going to select that. And I'm going to add a few fields here. I'm going to click this blue add multiple. All right, and then I'm going to pull the company name, the billing address, and the email. All right, so I'm going to grab company name, and then I'm going to hold my control key, and I'm going to grab the billing address. And then finally, I'm going to grab the email. All right, and then I'm going to click add. And so now I've got my company name, my billing address, and my email for the vendors related to this specific bill that would show up when I run this report. All right, so finally, I want to see the amount paid. And I also want to see the transaction number. And at this point, you can really add whatever you want to see here. So I'm also going to be adding the applying transaction document number. So again, that's going to be another data table. So I'm going to scroll all the way down here till I get to applying transaction fields. And I want to see document number. All right. All right. So like I said, maybe I want to see this report in like a summarized format, right? Where it sums up the total for that particular vendor for last year. So what we have to do is set some summary types here. So that's also really easy to do. So what I'm going to do is specify my summary type here that I want to group the vendor by the vendor name. I'm going to group that, okay? I'm also going to group the vendor company name. I'm going to group the billing address. I'm going to group the email. And then I want to sum the amount paid. Okay. All right. And so what it's going to do is it's going to summarize all of this data once I run the report. All right. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to click save and run. All right. And so here's our results, right? So here's our, here's our company name. And I can click this to drill into the results. Okay, here's our billing address. This is the email related to that vendor. And then here is the spend. Okay, the sum of the amount paid all in 2021 for these vendors. Again, it's a demo account, so there's not a lot of results here. Then we have our total spend for 2021 by vendors. Now, let's say I also, I can export this list, into Excel. I can, run further analytics on it once it's in Excel, no doubt. But let's say I want to see the actual results here, and I want to add this data to my vendor record, okay? And so that is also pretty easy to do, all right? And you can do that with a saved search. You can add a new subtab to your vendor record that's pulling in the results of a saved search. Okay, so in order to create a saved search and have it be displayed on a vendor sublist, one of the things that we do have to do is set an available filter. Okay, so I'm going to come over back. I'm back at my vendor yearly spend report. I'm going to go to my available filter, and I'm going to specify that I need the internal ID of the vendor record. Okay, so I'm going down to my joined fields and specifying internal ID. Okay, so essentially what you're doing here is you're linking this saved search to the vendor record or to a vendor table. All right. So once I do that, it's not going to change any of the results of the search. Okay, so the search results are all still the same. But what I can do now is I can go to customize, and then I can go down to forms, sublists, and then I can go to entity, again, because we're dealing with vendors. And then I should be able to go down to my list of vendors. And now I see my vendor yearly spend report. So I'm going to select it. And then I'm just going to use the same name as my label. This is just the label that's going to show up as the sub list on the vendor record. The tab here, this is the sub tab that you want these results to be displayed under. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to let it sit under the vendor 360 tab. Okay, because there's a lot of custom, these are all custom searches. This is just another one that I'm going to throw down under the vendor 360 sub tab. And then I'm specifying that I want this to show up on the vendor record. All right, click add and click save. All right, and now let's go take a look at one of our vendors that showed up on our report. So in this case, I'm going to use the Apple Store. All right, and I'm looking at my vendor record here, and I'm going to go down here and look at the vendor 360. And when I look at this, I'm probably not going to get the results that I expect. Okay, that is because I have the report grouped. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to go back to the report that I created, and I'm going to ungroup it to where it shows all the results, so that those results, those detailed results, will all show down here on this sublist. So to do that, I'm just going to go back to reports, save searches, all save searches, and I'm going to open it in a new tab. All right, here's my report. I'm going to edit it, and then I'm going to go to the results, and I'm going to ungroup everything so that I see all of the detail. Now the report is still set up to show totals, so it's still going to show the totals on my vendor record. So I'm just going to save and run it now. Okay, so here's all my results, all my bills, document number, the amount that we paid. And now if I go back to the Apple Store, and now if I go back to my vendor 360, here is my save search that I set up as a custom sub list on my vendor record. If I click on it, here's all my results. I can drill into any one of my invoices for the past year, the document number, the transaction name, the actual amount paid. If I scroll down, I can see from this vendor, we spent $88,000 with the Apple Store last year. So I have this now going forward. This is just another sub list that's available on my vendor record, and I can drill into any of them to see any of the detail that I want. So that's all there is to it. So again, today we covered, how to set up a save search and use it to set up scheduled outbound emails, sending out reports based on the results of the report to specific recipients. And we also learned how to create a grouped and summarized report. And then we also learned how to use a saved search to be set up as a sublist on a vendor record. Again, it doesn't have to be vendors. You can use saved searches to be used as sublists on item records. You can use them on customer records, really however you want. So I hope you found this helpful. I hope you've had a great 2022 NetSuite user group. Thanks again. My name is Scott Spradling. I hope you have enjoyed this tips and tricks. Have a great day.